So this week's video is kind of short. I don't have a ton of detail this week. I did a whole bunch of small stuff, but not a whole lot of big stuff, so there really isn't much to report on. I'll throw it in here, but don't expect anything earth-shattering. Probably because what I've been doing is getting the Scout ready for a trip out to the Harvester Homecoming in Indiana. We're going to leave Thursday. Me and my other Scout buddy Brian are going to hit the road and drive, I can't remember how many miles it is, but it's like 9 hours out to Indiana from Maryland, and check out the Harvester Homecoming. So I'll do a whole recap on that. I'm going to film a whole bunch of it in the trip out and the trip back, but the truck is pretty much packed and ready to go. I did get some stuff done on the Travelall, minor stuff, nothing major, and fooling around with a lot of little parts. I spent yesterday evening basically doing nothing but reorganizing parts and bins and just trying to figure things out. Some wins on the electrical, but I'm still waiting on some parts for that. So not a ton of really exciting stuff to report, but I'll show it to you here. Nice. That puts out some wind. And here's high. That's not bad at all. That's in good shape, so fixed. Something oddly satisfying about having fuses in the fuse block in this truck, even though it's not hooked up yet. Took a little time this evening and put in the top weather stripping on the passenger side door. It's all the way around. The only thing I'm waiting on is there's a little bit of encapsulator here and a little bit down here that I'm waiting to dry. So I don't have any on there's like a metal plate that goes behind here. I'm just waiting on that to dry, and then I'll come back and I'll hit that. So this is not all the way in, but just about there. And yeah, that'll have that part of the door, which is nice. Same thing is happening here though. If you look through there, you can see through the door. So I'm not sure what that is. It's got to be something with the way that the truck is engineered or something. I don't know. I'll have to sort that out later. Here's the heater box after one bit of sanding, a little bit of pounding with some body hammers, and a second coat of skim. The side is looking a lot better. The top is looking a lot better. There was a huge divot right here along the weld line that I beat out with with a dolly hammer. And then there was a high spot like right there that I also pushed down with the same stuff. So that's all ready to go, and that should be drying. And then on the inside, I'm gonna see if I can pick this up without touching any of the filler. I went out to Eastwood and got a new bottle of rust converter, because I've already gone through one, and hit the rest of the inside of this thing. I'm gonna basically let all that stuff dry, clean this thing up, and then start spraying the interior of this thing and getting it ready for reassembly. I've got a couple of coats of skim on the heater box, and it's looking pretty good. Side looks pretty good there. These are the welding divots. And then the underneath section is looking pretty good. Nice and smooth. So I'm gonna let this sit and dry. I've got to clean up the outside a little bit more here, scuff it out and get it cleaned up and everything. And then next I've got to find somebody who can match the gray paint for me, and then I'll spray this thing out. And oh, that's the other thing I'm going to do, is figure out if this color is the same as the door cards. Let's go figure that out right now. This beautiful piece of metal is the original door card from the passenger side back door in the red bus. And you can see here, as I look at these two colors, this is the original gray from the heater box. This is the door card. Door card is actually a little bit lighter. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. If I'm going to have them, I'm probably going to have them match the door card, because I want this is what most people are going to see. This heater box is going to be the part that's underneath the dashboard, and I'm not so concerned about, I mean, you're going to see it, but it's not going to be like the first thing you see when you open the door. I've got to sandblast these and clean them all up and get them all ready. This is the worst one. The other three are in decent shape. Actually, I take that back. The front two were cut for speaker enclosures way back in the day. And so I was actually able to get another set from my friend Ray up in Massachusetts, but those are more of a tan color. They're not the same color. So I'm going to have to spray all of these the same color at some point. So I definitely need the paint. So it's just a matter of I'll have to bring this up and get this matched. So this is a time lapse of me putting up an old pole and canvas awning that I had bought years and years ago for my first Scout. I would have shown you the entire thing and sped it up really fast, but the card on my camera, on my GoPro, basically filled up and stopped about halfway through. So, oh well. It is Sunday afternoon, and I've just spent the last, I would say, hour putting up a canvas over the red truck. This is going to help because what I've got to start doing before things get too cold is I've got to switch. As soon as I get done with the wiring under the dashboard, I've got to switch to the roof, clean up the roof, and spray it for paint. It's already spent one season out in the elements, and there is some rust coming through, and I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I'm going to have to buy some lights or something from, probably Harbor Freight, and hang them up in this tent and set up like a temporary workspace basically and get it ready to spray out. Last winter or last fall, I had gotten it to the point where it was pretty much ready for final finish sanding, but it got too cold and I had to give it up. So I'm looking back at this thing and I mean, this is a priority for the end of the summer. So I've got to basically shift gears a bit here. So as you can see, the canvas top is up. I've had to zip tie it. This thing is over 20 years old. I actually had this out over my old Scout 20 years ago when I first bought this house, and I couldn't park in the crappy garage there. So it's up, it's fine. It is still waterproof, which is great. And it's going to be what goes up over this thing until I'm ready to paint stuff. But you can see up here, you might be able to see that, I'm not sure. You can sort of see the reflection. I had spent a lot of time getting this prepped and ready for paint, but I've got to go back over it and, like I said, really clean it up. I've got to do the drip rails again because they're rusting and stuff. This thing stays covered, but the cover lays on top of it, and so that's why there's water that's basically sitting on there, and it's primer, so it's going to gather water. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long to redo, and I'm just going to use some basic white to go over this thing. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to work for now, and it needs to be covered, so I'm not too concerned about that. Doing a little bit of cleanup on the driver's door, and I interestingly uncovered a couple of holes that I hadn't seen here before. There's 2 holes here, and there are actually 2 holes up here, and those holes line up perfectly with this West Coast mirror that I already have. You see up there, those go there, and those line up really well with the ones down there. So at this point, at some time, this thing had a West Coast mirror that somebody took off and then replaced it with another mirror, and then something else here, and then there was another thing here, all kinds of crap. So I've got to figure out if I could still use these bolts or these holes, or if I've got to weld them and drill and tap them, or what I'm going to do here, because I'm not sure. These should be drilled and tapped because they're not supposed to go all the way through, and I don't think that they do, or maybe they do. I didn't see it. I'll have to pull that off and look and see, because they can't go through here and then bang up against the inside of the door jamb here. So hopefully they are drilled and tapped, in which case I can use them. So a little more investigation is going to be warranted here. At this point, I've already ground off the paint and everything that are around all the holes with a flat disc. and I'm just filling in the holes, all these different holes that are on the door. I've got an actual, it's a magnet with a copper end, and the copper part is over the hole itself from the backside inside the door. So I'm just filling these holes up with weld, and then I'm going to grind them all off and clean them up. Welds are now filled in, or the holes are now welded in place, and I've got one coat of mud on most of this stuff. So we're going to let this dry, and then we'll get on it with a sander and sand it down and get it ready for just cleanup. There's some other stuff I've got to clean up here to figure out how to get this badge off very quickly or very gingerly. Something else I noticed is that there are two holes on this side, a here and here, for West Coast mirrors. So I will have to basically do the same thing on this side that I did on the other side and grind these out, weld them shut, weld that shut, and then open this stuff up and put the West Coast mirrors back in where they belong, which is good news and bad news. I didn't put these in, so I don't know what I'm going to be facing there, but they can go in there eventually, so I guess that's good news. Here's where we're leaving things for the evening. These sections still need to dry, so I'm going to let them dry out, but these are filled in with weld. They've got mud on them. This stuff down here is looking pretty clean. Sort of hard to see, but it's covered, it's clean. I've got to do a lot more work on this door. This door is in pretty rough shape. But yeah, that's not too bad for a day's work. This is how the door turned out. It's not as beautiful as I would like for it to be, but all of the holes are covered, and it's got a layer of Rattle Can International Implement Red on it. Didn't turn out too bad. There's a couple of small ripples here in this crease that I'd like to fix, and this doesn't look good enough to me at all, but I'm going to call it good for now. It's covered, it's good, and my guess is that this paint is probably likely going to fade, much like the paint back here did that I put on last year. All of this stuff is going to have to get resprayed at some point, but for now, I think it works pretty well. So at this point, I'm taking a bunch of old Packard 56 connectors and replacing the original ones that came with the truck. They were all dry and crumbling, and I've already pulled the actual wires out, the leads out, and cleaned them off. So I'm just basically swapping out the plastic connector themselves. I'm doing this on this bulkhead, and then I'm going to move over to the one by the hood hinge. I've got new connectors on this plug and that plug. They are in place. I'm waiting on a new connector for the top section here, but I've actually got it in place there. I've got a fire extinguisher here. I'm going to connect up the battery and see if I see any smoke. Pray for me. I don't see anything. I see a turn signal. I see the other turn signal. That's something that I would never have imagined in a million years. Look at that. Holy crap. Let's see. Light switches down here. Oh, that's interesting. Clearly there's something going on there, because now I'm getting panel lights. All right, I'll have to figure what that's all about. I don't have... Yeah, my washers are not hooked up. I don't have much else that I can test here. Well, just having lights working is pretty amazing. Yeah, that would be... So if this is anything like the Scout, with that off... Well, all right, let's do this. All right, no blinker. I don't even think I have bulbs up in front here. Yeah, there's nothing up here, so I couldn't even test that if I wanted to. Let me see if the west side does anything. Nothing. All right. I'll say this much, the panel lights are super bright, and that's pretty cool. None of the fuses have blown, that's a good sign. I'm not going to turn it on because I think it's probably in gear, and I'm not going to chance that right now. Although, you know, hold on a minute. Alright, so check this out. That's definitely something. Using the keys actually works. So the keys actually now work in the truck, which this is a new key. This is actually a new lock barrel, and it's working. That's a huge relief because I tried replacing that last time and it didn't work. Wow. Wow. Looks like there's some other lights. Yeah, some bad connection back there with the main light here. Have to work on that. Wow. Here's a paper pattern for some floor mats I'm having made for the Scout. I've added a whole bunch of stuff on to the edges here. The edge here, so it'll come up to the edge and curving around. And I've tried to allow for the step that's under the gas pedal over there, and added some so it will come up right up to the switch right there. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to turn out. I have 3 old school K-line soft tops. I've got 2 what they call fast tracks and 1 snap top. This snap top dates back to my original Scout from 27 years ago, and it came with that truck and it was used then. What I'm doing right now is adding some snaps to the areas above the doors. This is basically just so with one of these old school tops, what it came with was Velcro. The bottom perimeter snapped in place, and then there are these bars that go up around the door frames. And these were set up as just Velcro. You would take this strip of Velcro, you flap it around, and that was supposed to hold this thing in place. Well, at 60 miles an hour on the freeway, that doesn't hold it in place. On another set of my bars, I've got like 5 sets of these bars, I put in snaps on all of these. So they're basically heavy duty mil-spec snaps. Put them in all around the perimeter here. And what I'm doing today is adding snaps to the bars so that when we are on the road, this thing is not going to come off, because what will happen is this Velcro will just immediately pop off. So I've got a set of stuff here. The West Marine stuff is garbage. I wouldn't use that at all. I've had to go out and get mil-spec stuff. But some of the West Marine tools are actually kind of handy to have. So I've sort of cobbled together a kit here. And then you can see here, this is an old package I got from K-Line. When I had to replace this top the first time, I basically emailed them, and they were cool enough back when they were still in business to just send me a repair kit. So they sent me over this punch and the seat here. And so what you do is you put the snap in here like so, and then you put the snap top on here like that. You put the punch over top of it and you hammer it, and that basically seats the snap. So what I've done is basically put these in. So on our way to Ohio, this is not going to come off because it's going to be securely snapped and Velcroed. And I think I'm going to put maybe one down at the bottom here. Well, I don't think I need one here. This actually isn't the problem, because what I usually do is run with this rolled up anyway. And these, when it's wet, these snaps are usually good enough to hold it in place. So I think we're in good shape now for the trip, which is good news. Pretty amazing what a new set of bulbs will do. I cannot tell you how happy that makes me. Alright, so that blinker is working. Now try the left blinker. Push it down. Yeah. Alright, so that doesn't work at all. So there's something going on with that light. Push it back. Alright, so what'd you do there?
I just turned it off.
Alright, so now it's back in the center. So push it down. So it goes off. Now push it back up to the center, and then push it all the way up. All right, so that blinker is working now. Very interesting. Okay. And they work, and then they do, oh. Well, maybe that's all it needs. It's a ground. All I did was tap on this. So I have a whole lot of groundwork to do. So right blinker is working. You can see up front there, can you see that blinking light on the dash? So bizarre. All right, so let me turn that off. Now, the left blinker does not work, and I haven't been able to figure out what that's all about yet. So I've got a marker light now here that's going full. This one is not. So I got to really clean up the grounds here to figure out what's going on there. They were working earlier today. So if I turn the lights on completely, I've got two headlights up there. There's my markers. So both markers work. So it's going to be a matter of really cleaning these grounds up to figure out what's going on. And then I got to figure out what's going on with this light where it's not blinking, because I have a new flasher unit behind the dash in this thing, and it does work for the right side. There it goes right there. And I can hear it. Hear that click? So weird. Okay. But that's good news. Yeah, interesting. So that's on. Now this one's out. But I think that was that was happening. That's right, that was happening before. So that's canceled. Yeah. So this one goes out at different times. So there's definitely a ground or a short or something happening there. But I will figure that out next. So really interesting. And then the other thing I've got to do is figure out what's going on with the bulb that's behind here, because it should be lighting up these two gauges. The gauge on the far right here is an aftermarket oil pressure gauge, and theoretically took its own bulb. So what they did was they jumped one of the bulb leads, the bulb lead that went here, over to the internal bulb that went on that gauge. I don't know. I have a Stewart Warner gauge that I might swap into that, or I don't know. We'll see. But I've got some more sorting to do with the grounds behind the dash here. And then I don't have any horn. I haven't figured that out yet. I haven't even opened this up yet, so I'm not even sure what's happening there. Something I did get to over the weekend was to cobble together a new wiring harness for the front indicator lights from a couple of scabby ones that I had. This one I actually had to cut out of the green truck, and it's complete, but I can't get this bulb out. This bulb is frozen in, and the back is frozen in place, and it's just not going to come out. This one I had to basically deconstruct to get stuff out. I had a pigtail, so I basically cut it. I cut it at the end of its run right here, and used an 11. This is actually an 1157 marker assembly, which I still don't know if that's the proper one for this truck. I've got to do more research and find out. But spliced that in and got it ready to work. The problem is this connector is supposed to go through the hole and back there, and it's just a little too big, so I don't think that this is the right bulb socket for this application. But what I did do was try this bucket out on my bench tester. I've got a 12 volt bench tester in the garage, and it worked. So then I disconnected the one that was in the truck right here and plugged this one in, but I still couldn't get power to this bulb to light it. I don't know what the story is there. Again, I've got to really figure out what these take. If I can get really clean buckets when I'm at Harvest to Homecoming, I'll see if I can find some and buy them. But I've got a whole bunch that are like in this shape or worse, including the ones that are in the truck. The ones that are in the truck are in pretty bad shape. But I really have to figure out what these bulbs are and put together a set that actually work correctly. And then I can figure out better what's going on here, if it's a ground issue. What I'm really going to have to do is probably build a whole bunch of wire pigtails for this truck and just basically manually ground everything to good grounds all around the body. I've actually already resigned myself to doing that, and that'll be fine. That should be pretty easy, but I think that's what I'm going to have to do to get good grounds here. That's actually what the previous owner of my Scout did for a lot of the electrics on this, was ran a lot of dedicated grounds, and so the electrical system on the Scout has actually been really, really reliable. So I don't know, we'll see. I had mentioned earlier about the early Travelall door latches. This is an early Travelall door latch. This is the same one that would go on my 63, 64, and then these are later versions for the different door latches. These were from the green 67. So this is the 63 and this is the 67. These are two of them that I have in a bag here. I'll put these door catches into the sandblaster just to see if I could get this top layer of silver off. It's the metal, and there's green, and then there's this silver stuff. I'm trying to get the silver stuff off, and I wound up having to basically just put it through the wire brush, because this stuff is like super, super hard to get off. So yeah, I'm going to put this one through now, clean it up, and then put it away. I'm loading out the Scout for heading out to Harvest the Homecoming. So I've got the usual basic essentials in here. cooler. This is a pop-up canopy. This box is for putting clothes and other stuff we don't want to get wet in case it rains. If it does rain, the inside of the truck tends to get wet, so it's always good to have something that's fireproof or waterproof. Tools, I got a spare, and then this is the actual repair box. This is an old 30mm ammo can that I put together, but we got the basic essentials here, a bunch of fluids and tools and other stuff that's in here, a spare belt that I just got, and a coil, and in this bag I've got a whole bunch of other smaller consumables, plus there's a fuel pump and there's a bunch of bulbs and zip ties and other filters and other stuff in here, so I think we're pretty good where that is set. I've had the truck serviced, went out through here yesterday and cleaned up the interior, so it should be pretty clean, and I think this thing is ready to head to Ohio. If you've made it this far in the video, you might be interested in some merch I've got for sale on threadless.com to keep this project going. I'll put a link down below in the description. Thanks for watching.